Thank you for tuning into IoT Connect, where we're covering some of the most interesting topics, trends, and news around the Internet of Things. IoT Connect is brought to you by TEAL, a wholly owned, patented, GSMA certified eSIM platform that connects any IoT device to any network around the world. Now, I'm excited to welcome you all to this episode of IoT Connect. If you're like us and you're passionate about IoT, be sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss a beat. Today, I'm excited to welcome Dave Haight and Kyle Pickens to our show. Dave is the Vice President of IoT at Globalstar, and he joined the company after his success developing the IoT business at AT&T, as well as other companies. Also joining us is Kyle Pickens, who serves as the Vice President of Strategy and Communications at Globalstar. Kyle joined Globalstar from Steelhead Partners, a longtime Globalstar investor. So for anyone who's out there who's looking to learn more about satellite communications technology, who's also interested in what the future of satellite will look like, this show is for you. Globalstar is one of the leaders in satellite technology, connecting users in areas where traditional networks are either unreliable or unavailable. I'm excited about today's discussion. Dave and Kyle, welcome to our show.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
So let's start off by talking about Globalstar's current satellite solutions. Can either of you give an overview of Globalstar and your current products?
Well, both of us actually can. So I'll start and I'll throw a few things out, and then Kyle, please add in. So Globalstar, we've been in business for over 30 years providing satellite services. We have a LEO, which is a low Earth orbit constellation, and we focused around a handful of different products and services. My area is the IoT business, and we've been in the IoT business for over 15 years, supplying low packet data solutions to customers, most of which we work in a wide range of verticals in IoT. So that would include everything from oil and gas to marine to government. So there's a wide range of verticals that we provide services to. In most cases, we provide both modems and finished products to our customers for them to use and connect to our satellites. We also have our spot products, which are our safety and security, as well as our two-way messaging devices that work in remote areas for lone workers, remote workers, and outdoor enthusiasts that are off the grid.
One thing that's unique about Globalstar relative to any of the other, satellite operators, a number of satellite operators have worked to get terrestrial spectrum authorized over the years. We were successful in doing so a number of years ago. The Globalstar satellite network works over 4 different bands. It goes up in an L band, a piece of L band. It goes down to the device in S band, and then it's a bent pipe architecture. So from the satellites to ground stations goes over 2 different parts of the C-band spectrum. We converted a part of our S-band spectrum to terrestrial use with the FCC, and we've taken that through 3GPP standardization as band 53 or N53 for 5G, and then we've gotten into the Qualcomm chipsets and built out the ecosystem with people like Airspan, who's a radio vendor, and Nokia, who most people will know. And we're trying to commercialize that spectrum around the world. Right now, we have terrestrial authorization in 10 countries. We expect to have some new countries in the relative near term. But the countries that we have now are the US, Canada, Brazil, South Africa, and then a number of other countries in Africa. We're working on most continents around the world right now. So we think it's a very interesting, very large opportunity, and we've been working hard at it for a number of years now.
So let's dig in a little bit further. This S-band, this terrestrial band 53, this announcement from Qualcomm, and this announcement for those listening is about their newest Snapdragon chipset that now includes Globalstar's band 53 spectrum. I mean, this is major news because we're talking about spectrum that was previously zoned for non-terrestrial use, that's now zoned for terrestrial use. Can we talk a little bit about what your strategy is for unlocking new use cases for Band 53? And maybe you can describe how you're positioned against others in the space?
Sure. So, I think that it's a 10 megahertz. First of all, it's a 10 megahertz resource. It's TDD. In the US, it's low power, and a few other countries, it's low power. We have no power restrictions in a number of the countries in Africa. Because it's, across so many different geographies, and we do control the spectrum resource, coast to coast. And so the way we think about it is we could do a number of different things. We could do private networks. We could do, we could work with the MNOs. We could work with cable companies. We could work with large tech companies. We could work with, the system integrators. So it's really kind of a greenfield opportunity. And we can try things in some markets and then do something else in other markets. So, we've only done a few deployments so far. We're at the Port of LA with Nokia, which has been announced. We have a mine in South Africa. We're working very closely with the system integrator in South Africa on a bunch of other mining opportunities. The group's called SEDNA. And then we also work very closely with Nokia's NDAC group, who are constantly looking for new opportunities for us. CBRS did a great job of kind of building market awareness of what private wireless can do for companies, and we're grateful for the success that they've had. But the reality is it's not really licensed spectrum. It's lightly licensed spectrum, and there's a number of opportunities that we're looking at that are close to the coast, which have when Navy ships are around, CBRS goes down, and if it's mission critical, you really can't risk that kind of drop in connectivity. And so we think that there's opportunity for us over time to work hand in hand with CBRS, and we've taken in 3GPP, we have carrier aggregation with CBRS and 5 gigahertz. And so you could have a deployment where you're using both CBRS and then Band 53 for the mission critical opportunities. But it's a 10 megahertz resource, which when you're thinking of very wide bands like we're using now with millimeter wave, it's a smaller resource, but it works very well. It's at the wavelength that can penetrate walls and go far enough, but it's great for small cell private networks overall.
Fantastic. So we're talking about terrestrial networks. Let's go back and talk a little bit about some of the other solutions that you mentioned earlier. So when we think about Globalstar, we oftentimes think about Globalstar having a focus on enabling life-saving technologies. Can you talk about how your commercial IoT and spot solutions support this mission, and maybe give some examples of use cases where these solutions can be applied?
Yeah, so when you look at safety and certainly personal safety management that many companies have, our spot devices are what we're targeted for those markets. And we really have 4 different capabilities and products in that category. Now, our Spot X is a device that actually looks like a BlackBerry, kind of look at it, because it has a keypad and a little screen. And that is a 2-way messaging device. And that is really designed for, there you go, thanks, Kyle. And that device is used by a lot of remote users and workers in oil fields, mines, agriculture, construction, when they're outside the grid. And many times they are working either by themselves or in small groups, and they need to text message between each other, and also has an SOS button. So if they do have an emergency, they can, obviously with coordinates, we know where they are, and we have a service that provides that type of response. It's true also for consumers. A lot of consumers use that device. I was just talking to some folks in Canada today, and they use it for their snowmobile, and they go out snowmobiling. A friend of mine who's a pilot always takes that device with him when he flies his plane. And so those are some of the examples that use cases that they used and kind of the outdoors adventurous types of things. So to date, we've had getting close to 9,000 rescues with those devices.
Wow.
Where you can just press the SOS, or the accelerator, knows that that those coordinates that person needs a response, and in the text message you can go back and forth and text if need so. So that's so we've been saving a lot of lives for a lot of years.
9,000 rescues. That is so impressive.
Yeah, it really is when you think about it. And again, as I said, it's been a business that we've been providing service for many years. And again, all over the world, they're deployed in all aspects of global footprint.
So you think about today's current product set, and you mentioned, duplex, you've got the spot solutions, you've got commercial IoT business. But is it fair to say that the terrestrial networks is still a small piece of that pie today?
It's extremely small. I mean, we're really just getting started. We went through this process thinking that, for a long time that we just needed to do the next thing and then the whole world would come to us. And then probably 2 years ago, we kind of laid out the full process to get spectrum to where it, can be commercially deployed. And we're basically at the very end of that. So there's very little barriers to deploy our band 53 now. But that's, that took a long time to work through. So we expect, the next several years to be where that really grows quite dramatically. I think that's one other thing that we've been, this is kind of more from an investor perspective than, just like an industry perspective. But, the way that we think about the business is that we've been talking about it in 4 pillars, where we have, the legacy business, we have the wholesale business, and then we have we have the IoT business, and then the terrestrial spectrum. And so, the legacy business provides, and the wholesale business provide, stable cash flow and a strong base for us to grow. And then we're really looking for the IoT business, which we think can be very, very large, and the terrestrial spectrum, which also could be very, very large to drive growth into the future. And that's what, Dave and I both are working on, those 2 segments.
So you mentioned the barriers to entry for IoTs with your networks being low. We talked about some other technologies like CBRS, and how Globalstar is maybe different, but also complementary to these technologies. Can we discuss the need for hybrid solutions and why, hybrid networks are going to be really what the future looks like when it comes to reliable connectivity?
I'll start, and then Dave, you go on with it. So, I mean, I think one of the things that we're finding is that there's a large number of users that would be private network customers would also like the ability to connect over the satellite network. So, think of any large movable equipment. It could be anything, but any of those types of pieces of equipment, whenever they are in the private network, they likely need large bandwidth, which is, our satellite network is not capable of providing, high bandwidth services. It's just the nature of the network plus the spectrum position that we have. And so, but when you're in the private network, you could, do data uploads, you could, update software, you could take off a bunch of video data, you can do all of those things using the private network. You can remotely control equipment, which, I think is a big thing that we'll see going forward. I was actually in Las Vegas earlier this week, and they have a company called like Halo.io or something like that that's remotely controlling Teslas, driving people around. I think that's right. And then, but then you still need to have that assurance that, a piece of equipment that might be $250,000 to $500,000 in some cases, if it goes outside of that private network, you can, you could shut it down if it's stolen, or you can, you can know where it is. You can, you can do various things like that. I think that's a big market that we'll be focusing on, where the two sides of Globalstar's growth segments can work very well together.
To Kyle's point was that this convergence of multiple networks, and our focus obviously is around satellite, private network, and utilization of that band 52 terrestrial, as well as working with cellular, because as Kyle was pointing out, the use cases many times are either very mobile, that are going in and out of all three of those networks, or they will be fixed in a certain period of time, and then one of them are permanently fixed. And so any one large customer, especially large enterprises, have assets that can move around quite a bit. And so that network management between those networks is an important part of the future of IoT. And we have a tremendous focus on that component of network management. In fact, we've got some new products that we'll be bringing to market next year that will address those multiple network capabilities, and the ability for an enterprise customer to be able to have a single device that works very well between all these different networks. And so that'll be a big part of our strategy in 2023.
When we talk about being network agnostic and technology agnostic, how do you see eSIM fitting in to the future of Globalstar?
Well, I'll hit it first. I think it kind of falls into just part of what I was just commenting to, is that when we look at large global customers that have IoT needs that are across different network capabilities, they will have assets in different markets in different regions of the world. And I think that SIM management for networks, as well as network management between network technologies, is going to be very important. A large oil company is going to have to deploy assets that have a very similar use case, and they need a device that can move between multiple networks, but also may have to move between different wireless carriers and different networks on that side of the equation. And so that importance to IoT, I think, is going to be even growing with great velocity in the next few years. I think also with 3GPP NTN coming into the marketplace, it becomes even more important as we manage that technology across different networks.
So we talked about some hybrid networks, and one thing that I'd like to delve a little bit deeper on is this multi-mode communications. Can we talk about some of the use cases that are going to need multi-mode, and also perhaps go into who some of the players are as far as technologies that are meeting that need today?
Yeah, it's a great point. When you look at the growth of certainly IoT, and you look at the growth of satellite IoT within that, the biggest growth over the next 5 years will be in what is called two-way multi-mode. In fact, the multi-mode component, or multiple networks, what that means, which is the satellite and cellular in combination with private network or other technologies, that's more than twice as much growth as just the two-way and one-way growth of satellite. So it is the primary focus of the future of IoT. And so when you look at some of the verticals that really need this type of multi-network connectivity and the ability to utilize connectivity across different networks, you're really looking at mining, you're looking at oil and gas, agriculture are some of the biggest, and construction. Those are some of the largest ones that would need this multi-mode. Now, it comes into play in others as well when it comes to transportation, whether it's trucking or even oceanic, shipping. But the biggest verticals and the use cases are for those devices or assets that move in and out of those networks and have different payloads. For example, as Kyle has mentioned, we're small packet data payloads, so it's more like an NB-IoT or CAT-M type of transmission on the cellular side of the business. And so where you have larger payloads, then you have to be in, a network that has broadband, such as cellular or in private network, as Kyle's mentioned. So those use cases or those assets going in and out between those networks is where this multi-mode or hybrid, sometimes it's called as well, will create a lot of value and drive a lot of the growth for satellite and cellular future.
Thank you for that. Can you describe or discuss some of the players who are addressing multi-mode or hybrid networking today and how you're positioned against them?
Yeah, so many of our competition has what they call dual mode today, and it's really the first generation of having a cellular and a satellite modem in a device. And they are almost all of them are first generation. And so the product that we're developing this year will be next generation capabilities. And the biggest difference, and I think the way we're going to position this product a little differently, is really in two areas. One is the area of the ability to do network management between the different networks. And that's all driven by edge computing. And so we have a platform, an app enablement platform called Realm Enablement Suite. And that product itself, with our new devices that have greater capabilities of managing data at the edge. So knowing when to switch from one network to the next, and the parameters that can be pre-programmed and changed on a regular basis as needed, as to when you may want to change those parameters and change which network you're using based on coverage, based upon cost, based upon network payload. So all of those come into play. And so our products that are coming out, our integrity products with our Realm software, will really position us extremely well for edge computing and to take advantage of this network management and multi-mode devices in the future.
Well, excellent. So we are kind of at the end here, and I wanted to just get from you guys, if somebody's interested in learning more about Globalstar and your satellite technology, where can they learn more?
Well, they can go to our website. It's just www.globalstar.com. I think we have it's a pretty comprehensive website, and then Dave and I are often at conferences, and you can reach out to us on email, and happy to discuss how we could work with you guys further, or anybody else that's interested.
Excellent. Well, there you have it. If you're like us and you're enthusiastic about IoT, be sure to like this video and click that subscribe button so you don't miss a beat. Be sure to tune into future episodes of IoT Connect. You can learn more at tealcom.io/IoT Connect. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And thank you to Dave and to Kyle for being on our show today.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay.